Welcome to the MemberWise Best Practice series. This video is brought to you today by the MemberWise Network, the leading free-to-join best practice network for membership and association professionals. We hope that you enjoy this great presentation, and for further information about our growing network, please visit www.memberwise.org.uk.
Two things, I guess, to say before we start. Three things to say. Gosh, these lights are incredibly bright up here, so it's very difficult to see anybody. But two key things. I think one is, I'm really just going to tell you a story of what we've done at the Institute of Directors over the last 12 to 18 months. And hopefully it will sound like a relatively lucid, sensible story. And it's a journey that we set out on, but we did tweak it and we did make it up as we went along. So I would hate for you to think that we spent vast amounts of time working out every single step before we set out. The second thing that I want to emphasize is I've got a terrible habit of making things sound easy. This has been really tough work, and it continues to be really tough work. And we've had great support from our strategic partner, Silver Bear, around delivery of our new customer relationship management platform. And we've had great support from our strategic partners, Cantaris. I can just make Lee and Mike out over there, who have delivered our new digital platform with us. But it's been hard work. We went live with some new systems back in July. We're 2 months in, and it continues to be hard work. And I don't think we'll be over that peak of activity until we get to the end of the year. So before we talk about the journey, let's talk about this thing which is the Institute of Directors, for those who don't know us. So we're based down on Pall Mall. This is our headquarters, a glorious John Nash building down on Pall Mall. And the IoD was founded over 110 years ago and got its royal charter 110 years ago this year, really to help business leaders be better. So the whole purpose of the organisation is to enable business leaders to be better at what they do, so that they lead more successful businesses, and so that the British economy is a more vibrant and successful place. And over the 110 years, a number of services have grown up around that central premise. So you can see there we have membership services, so we have advice lines and meeting places for people to attend. We have premises, we have this lovely building down on Pall Mall. We have premises in a number of English regions, in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, in Wales too, and if you're a member of the IoD, you get access to Regis lounges worldwide. So if you're travelling to Beijing or Tokyo or wherever, there's somewhere to meet and sit and work if you need it. We have regional and national representation, and those regional teams tend to be very well plugged into local government and local policy setting. We run events. Last year, I think, across our national, regional and branch network, the IoD ran about 900 events. So that's, gosh, what is that? 3 per working day? So take your pick. There's something there to choose from. Probably too many, to be honest. And one of our challenges is about focusing the organisation around the needs of our members. We have a professional development arm. If you want to acquire professional qualifications around director level courses, whether you want to be a chartered director or you want the certificate in company direction, the IoD has that professional development branch. We have a policy team. So this is the team who listen to members, thinking about that omnidirectional communication, listen to what our members have to say and reflect those views back into government. And from time to time, you'll hear the IoD taking a free market but moral stance on things to do with corporate governance. So the organisation has spoken out about some of the practices at Sports Direct, for example. We've spoken out about excessive executive pay. It's all about business done well. And then we have a publications arm. So we produce a lovely magazine 10 times a year called Director. The clue is in the name. And there's obviously a digital presence there as well. So quite a lot of product and services around that central premise of the IoD. And of course, as Director of Information and Digital Services, me and my merry band of about 15 team members are there to serve the needs of our organisation, about 200 staff, about 500 volunteers and our 34,000 members. So in terms of our agenda, this is a story about how we set our strategy and how strategy is moving from being something that's written on paper into taking some action. So we'll talk a little bit about some context. Why did we have to do this? We'll talk a little bit about how we defined our strategy and perhaps more about what we've delivered, because I agree that it's important to move from a concept into action as quickly as possible. We'll talk then about a real bugbear of mine at the moment, which is about culture and leadership. I think it's all very well to have a strategy, but I think we as leaders within our organisations can do so much to either enable that strategy to be put into practice or to disable putting strategy into practice. And then we'll talk a little bit about the benefits that the IoD has seen from what we've done. So in terms of starting that journey, the journey for change, you set a strategy probably because you want to change something. It's very unusual that you see a company strategy that says just keep everything the same. You need to have some kind of burning platform. There needs to be something that will push people away from where you are and perhaps attract them to a future place. For us, there were two key burning platforms. One is the reality of the IoD itself. The Institute of Directors needs to change. Now you can look at our premises around the country, and you can, and we could quite rightly say the IoD was perhaps the first co-working space in the country all that time ago. But we're suffering an awful lot of indirect disruption from some of the changes that the digital revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, as somebody described it to me yesterday, is bringing. So some of the things which are disrupting us: ubiquitous Wi-Fi. If you happen to be in London and you want to hunker down and do some work for a couple of hours, well, for the price of a cup of black coffee in Pret-a-Manger or Costa or Starbucks, and other outlets exist, you can work for a couple of hours relatively comfortably with free ubiquitous Wi-Fi. Social media is changing the way our members and our potential members interact and mentor upwards or mentor downwards. So social media is changing things. And that phrase, co-working spaces, the fact that there are the WeWorks of this world, is changing the need people might have had for the IoD premises in the past. And then we've got the cultural challenge. And I think this is to the point that you made earlier around this omnidirectional communication, this omnidirectional engagement with members. In the past, the IoD has been that organisation that has spoken to its members. And our members today expect a much richer dialogue, not just with the IoD, but with fellow members. And the biggest complaint we get as an organisation from our members is we expect more networking with others. How can you facilitate that for us and with us? And then really an overall wrapper there about reasserting relevance in the digital age, and I'll talk a little more about that later on. The other area of burning platform was the bit that I took responsibility for almost 2 years ago. So I joined the IoD in November 2014, and that was around information technology. So IT was an absolute barrier to change in a number of different areas. So we had a disparate array of systems. I won't name check any of them because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But they were old, they were very heavily bespoke, they were very poorly integrated, and they encouraged inefficient working, and they were absolutely incapable of supporting business change. And in terms of looking at the risk of that, there are 7 billion people on this planet. Only one of those 7 billion was capable of supporting those systems, a lady called Vicky. And if Vicky was on holiday or ill, the IoD was in serious trouble. That's not a good place to be. My merry band, 15 wonderful people, focused on keeping the lights on rather than seeking value through data and enabling change within the organisation. That's a woeful waste of talent in the organisation. Bizarrely, all our infrastructure was hosted on the top floor of our building in Pall Mall under a concrete roof in some of the most expensive real estate in London. That was a bad strategic decision taken at some point in time. Inadequate focus on data standards, governance, and value mining. What does that mean? Well, it amazed me when I joined the IoD that if I wanted to take a holiday, I had to fill in a paper form, scan it, get signatures, submit it, and go through a process. If I wanted to make a change to a system, I just spoke to Vicky. Again, not a great place to be. And a real lack of service processes and governance within the organization, actually increasing risk of failure, and not providing the kind of proactive value-seeking support and service that we were after. So in terms of setting a strategy, and that's very much what Rich has asked me to speak about today, I agree with the simplicity piece. It's important to visualize the journey in simple terms, and I think it's absolutely right that if you spend an awful lot of time trying to define everything about your strategy up front, you will never start on the journey. You know, if I want to drive from here to Inverness, I will pretty much know my route. I'll know roughly what time I'm going to get there, but I won't plan where I'm going to stop for petrol. I won't plan exactly where I'm going to stop for lunch. If it turns out that the M6 north of Carlisle is blocked, then I'll choose a different route. I have flexibility, but I know kind of what my destination is. It's Inverness. So we visualized our journey in simple terms, and split our strategy into multiple layers. And each of these layers has a fairly complex backing sheet, which we call our strategy into action plan. But the layers ran along these kind of lines. So people and service. So when I acquired the IT team at the IoD, it was a very traditional information technology team. It was obsessed with telling the IoD business what it couldn't do. Here's some technology, and you can't use it. We want to move, in fact, we are moving from that, to a place where we are enablers. We enable people within the organization to do what they need to do with the technology they need to do it with. Now, that doesn't mean that we say yes to everything. We have a real problem, for example, around bring your own devices and mobile phones. We just don't have the technology that supports that today. So respectfully, we have to say no sometimes and explain why we might be able to say yes in the future. But it's about enabling people more than anything else. And I'll come back to why leadership in this case is so important in the future, because if I, as a leader, start to demonstrate some of the service-oriented behaviors that I expect my team to demonstrate, that then allows them to start to behave in similar ways. Systems. So this is where Silverbear and Cantaris have been so terribly helpful for us. So this is a great illustration of the mess of systems that we used to have. And we pulled together a strategy for our systems, which is all about two key principles. It's about simplification and it's about integration. And those two key principles together are all about releasing the headspace within the organization to seek and deliver value for the IoD. So simplification and integration. And we can only do that if we work with strategic partners to deliver the technology platforms that we want to deliver. So we fired the starting gun on a project which we called Mercury in October last year. And Mercury was about, it was a really brave initiative for the IoD to embark on. The IoD has a history, unfortunately, of technology-based projects which have gone massively over budget, massively over time, and have failed to deliver on their promise. That probably sounds familiar for a number of organizations. And so we had this project, Project Mercury, and Project Mercury really was a rip and replace operation. It was about taking those 7 to 12 legacy systems all tied together with bits of string that only poor old Vicky could support, and our website, and replacing them in one fell swoop. So in one fell swoop, we replaced that legacy architecture with a single integrated customer relationship management system from Silverbear, and a new website based on the DNN platform that our colleagues in Cantaris helped deliver for us. And we went live with those new systems on the 27th of July after 9 months. We did it in 9 months, and we did it on budget, and we did it to time, and we're still hunting through the troubleshooting bits, but we'll get through that by Christmas. We did it because we kept it simple and because we iterated. We knew that we wanted to take the systems out of the box. We didn't want to have a whole load of Vicky code wrapped around it. We wanted systems out of the box, delivered simply, delivered quickly, at pace, so we could free up the headspace in the organizations to deliver future value. And that's very much what we've done, and we're in the, as I say, the first few months of troubleshooting and refining. But fundamentally, the business is operating on those new systems. And a little stat for you, before we went live with our new website, I think we had about 30% of new joiners joined on the web. 2 months after going live with the new site, 55% of new joiners are joining via the web. So the clearer, simpler, more integrated user journeys that our members, and it's all about the member, the new website is utterly member-centric, is already delivering benefit for the organization. In terms of infrastructure, here's a good example of your local friendly IT department. It's not only no admittance, it's strictly no admittance. So in terms of infrastructure, we wanted to move away from hosting our own server room to something that has really fantastic blue lighting that we don't have to worry about. And our new CRM and our new website is hosted for us externally. We're gradually beginning, we're beginning that shift from on-premise to off-premise so that we can focus on really understanding the IoD and delivering value for it. We wanted to move away from very poor quality data, incomplete, duplicating. This is my Scrabble set on my kitchen floor, by the way, to something which makes sense, something which is deduplicated, it's complete, and good data practices around that. And I'd be happy to talk at length about how we're beginning the journey towards introducing good data practice. Systems and governance. We wanted to move from a place where we had unnecessary complexity in some areas, how to book a holiday, for example, to a place where we have the right levels of complexity and completeness and governance in others, making a systems change, for example. And something which is useful, something which we can demonstrate to our organization is about ensuring we get to the right place in a safe and secure manner without unnecessary bureaucracy. So that was how we articulated our strategy. That's essentially the deck that went to the board back in March, April last year to say, look, this is the journey that we want to go on. And we then summarized that strategy into a vision. The focus being to enabling the IoD to be what it wants to be that inspirational champion of business. What is our vision for IT and digital services within the IoD? It's to be admired. It's not just to do stuff well, it's to be admired for enabling the IoD to achieve its strategic aims by delivering innovative and cost-appropriate solutions. The IoD is a membership organization. It's not for profit. It's not wallowing in cash, just like you guys with your organizations out there. With agility and speed. So it's about that pacey delivery again and not getting into analysis paralysis. Reaching out to members and the business community. We want to be an example to our members. You know, our 34,000 members tend to be the leaders of small to medium-sized organizations, which is essentially what the IoD is. The way we use technology within the IoD, we should be an example to our members. We should be a great reference point. And being a small internal team, you know, we're only about 15 people, focused on really understanding the IoD well and delivering value, but working with expert third parties like Silverbear, like Cantaris, for technical expertise. So beyond that, we have developed our strategy into a 4 to 5 year plan. So I have a spreadsheet, which I'm not going to show you because you'll all fall asleep. But it maps out for each of those strategy threads, so for people, for data, for governance, for applications, for infrastructure, what is the likely series of investments and projects and activities that will get us to that vision, that will get us to that end point? I'm a big fan of this book. It's quite old now, Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. It sounds very American, it is very American, but it's actually a cracking read. And one of the 7 habits that Stephen Covey talks about is beginning with the end in mind. Where do you want to get to? What do you want people to be saying about you and talking about you and thinking about you in 5 years' time, and using that as a tool to then help define the journey? I want to get to Inverness by 6 o'clock this evening. I should have left already. It's that kind of conversation. But developing it into a 4 to 5 year plan with clearly, with rough time-bound projects, with rough investment requirements, then starts to demonstrate the credibility. And you can then start to have the conversation with your business around, well, okay, if we do our Office 365 project, then that enables the replacement of our antiquated old telephony system and so on and so forth. And it turns the intangible tangible. Rich, how am I doing for time? I'm all right. Brilliant. So now I want to talk a bit about leadership and culture, because I think that's all very well. But I think the way we lead our teams and the way we operate and the way we behave in our businesses in this new, brave digital world is absolutely vital. And for me, the key word is agility. Agility is certainly what we aspire to at the Institute of Directors. I particularly love the dictionary definition, agility or nimbleness. I think we should use the word nimbleness. I think it's a great word to describe business. The ability to change direction efficiently and effectively, and it requires the integration of balance, coordination, speed, reflexes, strength, and endurance. I think those are all descriptors that we would be proud to use of our teams and our businesses. So agility is our purpose. And I think the drive for agility comes from this, as Gartner call it, this nexus of digital technologies that are empowering new ways of working, not just for us in our jobs, but our members and the people we want to be members. The blend, not of any one of these, but of all of these, of social, of mobile, of new analytic capabilities. That's something we really need to turn our attention to at the IoD over the next 24 months. Applications and cloud. It's not one of these in isolation, but coming together, these enable people to live their lives in very different ways. And I think it needs a new kind of leadership. If we are going to expect our teams to be innovative and to be agile, then I think we as leaders need to behave differently from the way that we've behaved in the past. And I think it requires us to, in many ways, get out of the way. We need to liberate our people to experiment. We need to liberate them to learn fast. We need to liberate them to try new things in the course of trying to add value to our organizations and our members. We need to push decision-making down as far as we can so that we empower people, we don't take power away from them. We need to provide very clear guidance to our teams, but not control their every waking hour and have conversations that run along the lines of, you need to work on that project and you mustn't work on anything else. We need to show confidence and we need to show trust. Now this isn't a license to tolerate poor performance. Poor performance is still a management issue, it's still a leadership issue, and it needs to be dealt with very, very quickly, possibly even more quickly than we've dealt with it in the past, otherwise we lose the credibility of the other piece. But we have to be able to free people up if we expect them to behave in innovative ways and really add new sources of value to our organizations. Here's another book that I'm an absolute fan of. This is called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and it talks about lean innovation, and it very much talks about that notion of learning fast, of trying things, of learning, of then changing the approach. And Eric calls it pivoting. So you trial something, you learn the lessons, you pivot so that you're constantly navigating a course that gradually gets you to where you need to be. The M6 north of Carlisle is blocked. Well, I'll pivot. I'll go a different way and I'll get to Inverness maybe a little bit later, but I'll still get there. Agile culture, seek empowerment, work at pace, be accepting of ambiguity. This new digital world is full of ambiguity, and our children are going to be able to navigate this incredibly well. They don't wait to read the instructions before they do something. They jump in and start making it work. High levels of change. We all know there are huge amounts of change in our organisation, and I think one of the things, coming from the questionnaire we had after the last session, this point about being asked to do everything all at once, I think we need to be creating options. I answered no to that question, but I answered no to that question not because I'm not being asked to do everything all at once, but because I'm being asked to create options. How could we plan this course so that we're delivering the right things at the right time to enable the IoD to get where it needs to get to? We need to fail or learn fast. I much prefer the phrase learn fast than fail fast. Yep, absolutely right. Seek learnings and validated learnings. So it's not a case of, well, I'll try it, and if I fail, it's fine. It's about what will I learn from this experience and really make sure that learning's captured. Pivot for success. And then something which I'm really trying to drive in at the IoD is that everybody's a leader. No matter where you are in the organization, everybody is a leader if they are freed up and empowered to be so. And I think that's absolutely important if we're going to get the best from people. In terms of agile behaviors, what do we seek? Well, we need role models. We need people who are able to role model this new way of behavior at all levels within our organizations. We need to, this is a phrase I picked up from somewhere else, I can't I can't claim creation of it. We need to guide from the center. So we need to be, as leaders, we need to have the confidence, I guess, and the humility to take ourselves out of the top of the hierarchy and put ourselves into the center of troubleshooting circles, enabling others to take the lead and solve their own problems. We need to praise creativity, even if it's going off-piste. We need to accept surprises. We need to liberate. I've used that word before. And I think this is an absolutely perfect phrase, and again, it's not one of mine, for the digital age and the agility that we aspire to, that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And I think a lot of the problems that the IoD, for example, has had in the past around some of the projects that have gone wrong is so much time was spent trying to define everything up front that by the time the system came to be delivered, the world had changed and it no longer met the needs of the organization. Process agility, so just enough process, enable but control through guidance. Agile project management, absolutely vital bit of armory in our weapon store, but it's not a recipe for chaos. It's a different set of processes from traditional waterfall project management, and in many ways it's more disciplined than the traditional approach. And processes need to support and enable the behaviors and culture that we're looking for. And then agility in architecture. So our technologies, one of the key lessons we're trying to bring to the IoD is the sense that not all technology is the same. Gartner and Forrester talk about bimodal IT. So you have your foundational technology, the big stuff, your CRMs, your ERPs. Those are your systems of record. They're our systems of record. They should actually change relatively infrequently, and the changes that we apply to them need to be thoroughly tested because we don't want to pose risk to our businesses. Where does the value come from? Well, it comes from the other platforms, the other systems that we have, those systems like our web portals, our apps perhaps, that deliver new sources of value and innovation. And these should have much faster cycles of innovation. People like Amazon, they're testing things every day. They have a testing cycle, not of days or hours, but minutes often. Now that's a real challenge for us with our traditional thinking to move away from treating every system the same. And it's those systems that differentiate us in the marketplace and those systems that drive innovation within our organizations that will be the sources of new value and will help us navigate the disruption that the digital revolution is bringing to us. So benefits, I've spoken about some of the immediate benefits we're seeing with our integrated CRM and web platforms at the IoD. But the benefits that this approach is bringing, and this is only the start of a journey. I wouldn't want you to think that we've completed this journey, and there are lots of parts of our business that are at different stages on that change curve than others, but it's beginning to bring clarity, it's beginning to bring purpose, it's beginning to turn us into a learning organization, it's beginning to give freedom to people, and some people lap that up and others find it rather challenging. It's increasing the payability within our organization. It's increasing our focus on the members. You know, the IoD shouldn't exist for any other purpose than to serve the needs of our members. It is all about the members, and we need to be utterly member-centric, and it's improving our relevance and success. And that's it. Thank you very much.
If you'd like to come over here. Now, I think you've got 2 questions that you wanted to pitch to the audience. Is that right,
Oh, yes,
James?
2 questions. Will they go up on the screen? Because I can't remember my own question. Oh, here we go. So, using the voting buttons, 1, 2, 3, yes, no, abstain, is IT a barrier to change for your organisation? And be honest.
Okay, I'll take a few seconds just for the responses to come through. Again, thank you to ERS for providing this service today. We've never done this before, so it's quite interesting.
Do I need
seeing
to
it
click
work.
anything?
There you go. There's your answer.
Ooh.
So 74.58% of you believe that IT is a barrier to change for your own organisation. So I think that's another shock statistic, I suppose.
It is, and I think that it's a call to arms for IT departments to work out how do they stop being a barrier to change. Because I do wonder whether the end of the road's in sight for the traditional IT organisation. Certainly within we still call ourselves the Information and Digital Services team, but even we've begun the move away from even calling ourselves IT. And I think, as someone who's in that leadership position, I think as a CIO, you have a wonderful opportunity to really understand the totality of the organisation and to be a real driver for change. So I would, for those of you who have IT departments that you think are that barrier to change, or you're part of a team that you think, well, we are a barrier to change, I think the key strategic question is, well, how do we stop ourselves being that?
And in terms of your second question, if we could just quickly show that one.
Does your organisation have the right culture for IT to change to become a true enabler? Again, yes, no, or abstain, please.
And it's quite interesting as well, because I know within IT departments, certainly with what I've come across as well, you've got kind of an internal function, sometimes very, very internal looking, delivering external content linked to what other people, say, within membership are doing. Yeah. And we've seen that hopefully improve. So do you have the right culture? 63% believe that they do. 31%, a third of all organisations who are here today, do not believe they have the right culture. And obviously that's something you think that's quite important, James.
Well, it's the other way around, isn't it? It's 64% say they don't have the right culture.
Ah, correct. Sorry.
That's really quite depressing. And I don't have any answers standing up here, but I think it's clearly an important question, because I don't think that you can become an enabler if you don't have the right culture. And the culture we're trying to drive at the IoD won't be right for everybody. And there are areas where we're pushing. I spent a lot of yesterday responding to a member who was very, very upset that we had changed the old website. Not because he didn't like the new website, but because the process of re-registration we asked him to go through was a bit complicated. Most people like it, some people don't, but we have to help everybody navigate that piece.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your session, James. Really appreciate it. Thank you, audience.